Hey guys, how's it going? It's Sam here, and we're continuing our series reviewing all the films in my personal Criterion collection. And today we're going to be talking about maybe one of the most historically important films Criterion has released, and one of the more eye-opening releases I personally have. And that is 1966's The Battle of Algiers, which is number 249 in the collection. And it is a very, very thick release. It's one of their digipacks. And as you can see, I pull this out and you get this monster of a booklet, which we will get into later why it is such a big deal to have this release. But the Battle of Algiers is a very important film in the sense that it was a movie that really popularized the idea, or really got the idea started of politically accurate movies, politically strong and sort of impactful films that are shot in a more realistic way. So the historical event that the Battle of Algiers is portraying is, well, the Battle of Algiers, which was a sort of mini war or mini battle, I would say, that took place in the city of Algiers, which is the capital of Algeria. Which at the time, this is in the mid to late 50s, was still a colony of France, and so the native people there, the Muslims there, didn't have any actual freedom, or were treated equally in comparison to the Europeans that were living there. So after years and decades of oppression, they finally decided to sort of rise up and form their own resistance group called the FLN, which stands for the National Liberation Front. And so this film chronicles the specific 3-year period where the FLN sort of went to war with France, which eventually led to a very strong military response, a lot of violence, a lot of social and political upheaval, and the film aims to present it in the most unflinching way possible, still offering some drama in the sense they have some main characters, like our main resistance member, who starts out as the sort of poor petty thief who is sent to jail and is radicalized while in there, eventually joining the FLN once he leaves. And we sort of have them, and we have other characters here and there, like the French general who comes in to sort of oversee the operation. But overall, it is meant to be a document showing the Battle of Algiers, showing the war, showing the struggle from both sides. And I think that is one thing that I really appreciate about the Battle of Algiers, which is that it is a film that is able to show both sides. As in both sides of the conflict. You see the FLN and what they struggle with and why they feel the need and the burning desire to resist and to gain their independence. But then you also see the French response, and you see what the military's mindset was, which is essentially, we can't have, this is how things have always been, and we can't have these we can't have these terrorists coming in and killing a bunch of people and hurting everybody. But what I think works so well about the film is that while it shows both sides, it doesn't, it still takes a side, right? Like it acknowledges that this is a complex and morally gray event and situation, but it also ultimately, I would say, sides with the FLN, acknowledging that their right for independence and their fight for it is a noble cause. And their reasoning for getting so violent, ultimately, it makes sense, and it's necessary to a certain extent. So then, to go off of that, Battle of Algiers is so effective because of its documentary style, where the images feel very real. It's shot in a lot of steady cam or shaky cam. A lot of the actors are not actors; they're just regular people they found in the street. The destruction they show is very visceral and very surprising. I originally, before I even owned this film as a Criterion, I was shown a clip of it in a film class in college. And we were just shown the scene, I think it happens about an hour into the movie, where the FLN gets these 3 different women to go to 3 different spots in a popular area of Algiers, I believe, called the Casbah. And they go to these popular places like a diner, an airport, wherever, and they leave, and they have bombs in their purses, so they leave the purses there to set off the bombs and cause this horrible, violent explosion. And the film, this is probably one of my favorite sequences in the film because it shows you every single step of the process where the women are getting ready to try to make themselves look less Algerian, more white, more European. We see them go through the different, go through the various checkpoints, get the bombs, place them in the various spots. And I think these moments have so much impact because there's such a focus on the other people there. How there are so many innocent lives that are being affected by this, and how, you know, this fight and this resistance is ultimately necessary, but the lives that are being taken, it's a tragic thing to see. And, you know, they don't shy away from showing these explosions. They are very violent. They do hurt a lot of people. And there's no, like, insane violence or gore, but there's just enough there. There's just enough human suffering to make it impactful, to make you understand, you know, while this may have ultimately been, you know, the Algerians may have been on the right side of history in a sense, it still is a tough choice. It still is not an easy thing to do. You're still impacting human lives, especially innocent people who are not actively racist or not actively prejudiced, but, you know, are sort of caught in the crossfire. And I think it is ultimately an anti-war film. I think it's ultimately a, you know, anti-colonialist, imperialist film that does a fantastic job at conveying that and making that story engaging. And one way it makes it engaging is through the soundtrack, which is very famous and has a lot of motifs and famous songs. One of the songs is in fact used in Inglourious Basterds. And it's just a very engaging soundtrack, especially during that bombing scene I was just talking about, where it's just, you see, they have this very intense, like, drum-based song that's very, like, it really ratchets up the tension that's already there. Which, if you didn't have the music, I think it would still be an effective scene, but that music just takes it up to a whole other level. It's simply incredible. I don't know, it's difficult to really overstate the power of the film. I feel like I've done it enough. I think it's a movie that is very politically strong and active, still impactful today as we're still dealing with the effects of colonialism. And it's just a very powerful statement that does a great job of capturing this time, and this release has helped me to really understand how important and radical this film was even back then, or especially back then. So this release from Criterion is probably one of their best in terms of giving context for the film, because you not only get the film in an amazing quality, but you also get 2 different discs. One of the discs is the film and the special features related to the film. So interviews with the director, whose name is Giulio Pontecorvo. I might have the name wrong, but these really great special features about him, about his process, about the behind the scenes of making this film, and that whole context and history. There is a really great documentary by Edward Said, who's this great literary critic and focused a lot on colonialism, who did like almost like a profile on the director and his work and his evolution as a director, and it's very fascinating. Oh, and there's a really great special feature where they interview, I want to say, 5 or 6 different directors, including Spike Lee and Steven Soderbergh, and look at the influence this film has had on modern directors. And it's amazing to see just how much power this film holds even today, with these directors who are clearly inspired by and are clearly like in awe of its creation. It's a very interesting little piece. But then you also get a second disc, which is all of the historical context for the film. That is simply fascinating. I mean, this could almost be a release on itself, just this second disc. You get a documentary on the Algerian experience. You get a documentary talking about. You get a documentary with French military officers talking about the the torture methods they used and the different, just how messed up everything was. There's a case study from US counterterrorism experts, and there's a really interesting documentary where the director visits Algiers 3 decades after it's gained its independence. And I mean, all of these documentaries, almost all of them are feature length or close to it. It's a very jam-packed, informational, informative release that is just simply spectacular. And if that isn't enough, you also get the thick booklet, which includes, of course, the essays about the film, which are bound to be with every Criterion. But they also include a really, really interesting feature where they have Sadi Yassif, who was one of the heads of the FLN. We get his own account of his arrest, and then we also get the version of it that's from the original screenplay, which he helped to, which he consulted on, and he also plays a role in the film where he's playing a character similar to himself based on his own experiences. And that level of detail, that level of, attention is what separates Battle of Algiers from many other films. And separates this release from many other Criterion releases. It's just the amount of clear love and care that went into not only preserving the film, but preserving the message and the context of the film. Not only giving you the opportunity to watch it and figure it out for yourself, but making sure you understand why it was so important and so radical. I mean, this unflinching look at the Battle of Algiers and how it affected not only the people of Algiers, but the French military and the methods they used and their own reasoning. It came out 3 or 4 years after Algeria gained their independence from France. It's completely, it's an amazing turnaround for that. And it's even more spectacular that it is so accurate according to almost everyone involved. It's just a very special, very important film that is probably required viewing at a certain point. And it's like, it's similar to a movie like Z, where it may not necessarily reaffirm or encourage your love for politics or for colonialism, but it is vital. It is important to get you thinking, to get you questioning, to get you to really consider how long these discussions and topics we have today about the effects of colonialism, how deep those roots go and how far they reach, and to also consider, terrorism is awful, but to a certain extent there might be a reason behind it, and we shouldn't just see them as violent people. We should see them as people pushed to the edge, people who believe there's no other option, and they've tried all of the peaceful methods and they've constantly been pushed back and resisted by the French government, or just the government and the powers that be. What else is there but violent? What else is there to do? It's a very powerful film that, despite its lofty political aspirations, it never loses sight of the human side of it. It never loses sight of the people on the ground fighting for what they believe in or resisting these thoughts. And are just people caught in the crossfire. There are a lot of times where people are just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's just as tragic as someone dying for their beliefs. And it's just a very powerful film that I highly, highly recommend, especially this Criterion release. As I've said, it's just jam-packed. It will give you a very sobering history lesson, especially on a topic that I believe isn't really discussed or talked about that often. But thank you all so much for watching. Do you like the Battle of Algiers? What do you think of it? Do you believe its impact is still felt today? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please like it. Please share it around if you want more people to watch it. And also remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, because next time we're going to be talking about the French horror film, the very influential Eyes Without a Face. But thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.